Everyone is staring at January 20th, 2025. They are looking at Inauguration Day as the moment the world changes. But there is a different date on the calendar, one that nobody is paying attention to, that might actually decide the fate of the war in Ukraine. We are hearing reports of a new silent ultimatum, a deadline that is not set for next year, but for the upcoming winter holidays. If you think this is just another political rumor, you need to see what is happening inside the Kremlin right now. Because while the West is nervous, Major Janis Sladins, a key military analyst, confirms something terrifying. The mood in Moscow is not fear. It is not caution. It is euphoria. Why? Why would Putin be celebrating when an unpredictable leader like Trump is about to take office? The answer lies in a map that has just been leaked, a peace plan that looks suspiciously like a trap, and a secret mobilization crisis that Russia is desperate to hide. Today, we are going to expose the real reason behind the winter deadline, why the so-called Korean scenario is a military nightmare, and the one piece of data, the 40% deficit, that proves Russia is running out of time. Let's start with the deadline. Right now, the media is flooded with headlines about Trump's peace plan. You have seen the bullet points: a 20-year freeze on NATO membership, a demilitarized zone, and a hold on all territory currently occupied. But here is the detail that matters. Sources indicate that Ukraine is being pressured to accept the framework of this deal by the winter holidays. Why this date? Because political vacuums are dangerous. The transition period in Washington is chaos, and chaos is where bad deals get signed. The Trump team wants a win secured before day one. They want the concept agreed upon so that the inauguration becomes a victory lap, not a negotiation start line. And this brings us to the first major red flag. When you look at the reaction from the Russian side, you would expect hesitation. Trump is known for blowing up the table, right? He is the guy who walks away if he does not get his way. But this is a massive contrast. The Russians are not hesitating. They are cheering. Sladins reports the Kremlin is in a state of euphoria. Therefore, we have to ask, if the dealmaker is coming to town, why is the opponent so happy? The answer is simple. The current version of the plan gives Putin exactly what he needs. Not peace, but time. You see, the plan revolves around freezing the conflict. The buzzword in every think tank right now is the Korean scenario. It sounds reasonable on paper, doesn't it? The Korean War ended with an armistice, not a treaty. They drew a line, created a demilitarized zone, or DMZ, and South Korea eventually became a global economic powerhouse. So people ask, why not do that for Ukraine? Here is why, and this is where the Limas test comes in. We need to look at the mechanics of this, not just the politics. In 1953, the Korean DMZ was established across a peninsula that is only about 250 kilometers wide. It's narrow, it's mountainous, it is heavily fortified and relatively easy to monitor. But the front line in Ukraine is not 250 kilometers. It is over 1,200 kilometers long. It stretches across flat steppes, rivers, industrial zones, and forests. Therefore, trying to enforce a freeze on a line that long is a logistical impossibility without a massive peacekeeping force. And who is going to provide that force? Lavrov, Russia's foreign minister, has already drawn a blood red line in the sand. He stated explicitly, "We have no intention of fighting Europe, but if European contingents appear in Ukraine, we will respond." He calls it a hostile step. In plain English, that means if British, French, or German troops try to police this new DMZ, they become targets. So, if you have a 1,200 kilometer line that nobody is allowed to police, you do not have a DMZ. You have a porous border. You have a sieve. And that is exactly what the Kremlin wants. They want a pause. A pause lets them fix the one problem they cannot solve with missiles or drones. This leads us to the biggest secret of the war right now, the missing component that explains why Putin is desperate for this winter deal. It's not about ammunition. It's not about the economy. It's about meat. We imagine the Russian army as an endless horde. We assume they have infinite manpower, but the data tells a completely different story. Major Sladins revealed a stunning statistic. Russia's regional recruitment centers are currently facing a deficit of approximately 40%. Think about what that means. For every 10 soldiers they need to replace the men dying in the trenches, they can only find 6. Independent intelligence confirms this. The British Ministry of Defence estimates that Russia's losses have reached over 350,000 men. Meanwhile, the number of new contracts being signed is dropping. They used to get 1,000 volunteers a day. Now it's significantly less. Therefore, the math is breaking. Losses are exceeding the replacement rate. This explains the euphoria over the peace plan. Putin knows his army is bleeding out. He knows that the meatwave tactics, where they throw bodies at Ukrainian defences to reveal firing positions, are unsustainable. He needs a timeout. He needs 6 months, maybe a year, to reset the board. If he signs a deal by the winter holidays, the shooting stops. The 40% deficit does not matter anymore because the grinder stops turning. He can rotate his troops, train the fresh conscripts, and build new stockpiles of North Korean shells. But if the war continues, if Ukraine refuses to sign, then Putin has to make a choice that could end his regime. He would face a new general mobilization. We know he is terrified of this. How do we know? Because he keeps delaying it. He keeps raising the signing bonuses, up to 2 million rubles in some regions, just to bribe men into joining. He does not want to force them, because forcing them puts protesters on the streets of Moscow. But he is preparing for it. Just days ago, Putin signed a decree that almost nobody covered in the mainstream news. It is a call-up for reservists. Look closely at the date. The training is scheduled for 2026. This is a classic counterintuitive fact. Why issue a decree for 2026 when you are fighting a war in 2025? Because it is a signal. It is a message to Washington and to us. It says he is playing the long game and he is willing to wait you out. It is also a safety net. By calling up reservists for training, he gets them into the system. He gets them in uniform, in barracks, and under military law. Once they are there, it is very easy to change their orders from training in Siberia to deploying to the Donbass. It is a stealth mobilization. He is patching the holes in the ship while telling everyone the ship is unsinkable. So, let's bring this back to the present moment, to the winter holiday deadline. Ukraine is stuck in a brutal vice. On one side, they have the Russians who are slowly creeping forward, taking about 1.5% of territory in 3 years. It sounds small, but that 1.5% includes critical fortresses and industrial hubs. On the other side, they face an American pressure cooker. The narrative is this: take the deal, save your people, freeze the lines. But here is the stakes check. What happens if Ukraine says yes? If they accept the freeze, they lose the Donbass. They lose the industrial heart of their country, and they leave millions of their citizens, those people Lavrov claims he wants to protect, under an occupation that tries to erase their identity. Major Sladins put it perfectly. A freeze does not mean peace. It means the enemy gets to reload. The Korean scenario only worked because the United States put 30,000 troops on the ground in South Korea and kept them there for 70 years. It worked because the security guarantee was absolute. Is the Trump administration offering to put 30,000 US Marines in Kharkiv? No. Is Europe ready to send division-sized elements to patrol a 1,200-kilometer border? Lavrov says that is a declaration of war. Therefore, the security guarantee, the one thing that makes a peace deal real, is missing. This is why the next 30 days are the most dangerous period of the entire war. If the deal is pushed through during the holidays while we are all distracted with family and food, it will not be a peace treaty. It will be a surrender of momentum. It will be a gift to a Russian army that is currently staring at a 40% manpower hole. But if Ukraine holds the line, if they refuse the ultimatum, then January brings a new reality. A reality where Putin has to face his deficit, where he has to choose between a collapsing front line or a politically suicidal mobilization. The Kremlin is betting everything on this winter diplomatic blitz. They are betting that the West is tired. They are betting that we just want it to be over. But as we have learned from history, a war does not end just because you stop shooting. Sometimes that is just when the enemy starts reloading. So when you see the headlines next week about a Christmas miracle peace deal, ask yourself the question nobody else is asking. Who is this peace actually for? Is it for the people defending their homes? Or is it for the army that has run out of soldiers? Keep your eyes on the dates. The clock is ticking.